What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about all the things wide receivers need to do to run insane routes. So we're going to be covering moves that you should be doing off the line, moves that you should be doing at the top of the route, how wide receivers can read defenses, and everything that goes into route running, really breaking down the fine details. So I hope this video helps you guys out, but also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you're maybe not sure what you should do on a day-to-day basis to improve these specific skills, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate wide receiver training schedule. It's a 4-week daily schedule where we map out the exact drills and gym exercises wide receivers specifically need to do. We give you the exact sets, reps, and an example of each exercise. So check out that very first link below if interested, fellas. Let's get started. So now, first thing I want to talk about here is how wide receivers can attack a DB's leverage. So I think this is the most important thing when it comes down to playing the wide receiver position is understanding how to set yourself up and put yourself in a position to get open. So obviously, every single snap of the ball, you come up to the line, you got to have a plan based off of what the DB does, right? You come up to the line, you should be thinking, okay, based on his leverage, this is what I'm going to do. This is what comes down to being a good receiver. It comes down to the mind, knowing what to do and knowing how to actually execute it. So we come up to the line, and this is off man, inside leverage. So off man coverage is when the DB is about 7 to 8 yards off and he is looking at you, right? He's not looking at the quarterback. That would be zone. He is not press man. He's about 7 to 8 yards off and he is looking directly at you in a squared stance. So what does that mean? Why is he playing inside leverage? Because all this info should be automated. You come up to the line, you should already know what this is. I'm just breaking it down so you guys can have a better understanding. So he's inside shade to protect the inside. He wants to stop the post. He wants to stop the dig. He wants to stop anything that's going to go over here because he does not have any help over here. Wherever his leverage is, that means that he does not have help. His help right now is going to be the sideline. So he wants to do everything possible to fade us to the sideline. Now, if you have a route like an out route, a corner route, a fade route, where you actually are running towards the sideline, the last thing you want to do is just take off and go run. This is the mental IQ side of things that a lot of receivers struggle with. They don't understand what's going to get them open on specific routes. So what Antonio Brown does right here is he attacks the DB's leverage. He runs to the inside and stems this DB to the inside. So when we stem him to the inside, what automatically is he probably going to do? He's going to keep his leverage to the inside, right? He does not want to get beat on the post, like I said, the dig, whatever. So he's going to hold that leverage. But guess what that does? That gives us more space to go run this fade route. It's no different now, like as if he was head up because I angled my stem to the inside. That's called attacking a DB's leverage. So anytime that I line up and I have a look like this and I have inside shade off man, he does not have any safety help, and I have a route like an outside breaking route, I have to attack his leverage. Now you might ask me, what would you do if you actually had to run the post or the dig? A lot of people would say you want to stem him the exact same way, but we know if we stem him, what is he going to do? He's going to keep that leverage to the inside, and you're going to end up running right into him. So you'd have to attack his outside shoulder, try to get him to flip to that fade route, and maybe we slip back underneath to win on the post. But you have to know, fellas, how to attack a specific leverage, whether it is press, whether it is zone, or whether it is off man like so. So I'm going to play this thing full speed one more time. It's a great job by Antonio Brown stemming to the inside and giving that QB enough room to fade you outside on that fade ball. Okay, so now, second example here is going to be how you guys should attack zone coverage. So like I said, we're going to be covering every single base in this video, fellas. We're going to be talking about press releases. We're going to be talking about all the aspects of the wide receiver position to make you a great route runner. So we got this guy here. So DB's off, maybe about 5 yards, eyes to the inside. So what does this automatically look like? Zone. We know it's zone because of his eyes and his stance. So we know that he is going to be bailing out of there. So I'm going to play this full speed. This is a comeback route. Now remember, this DB's lined up outside leverage. We talked about it in the last clip. It doesn't necessarily matter what the coverage is. His leverage responsibilities will still stay the same. So let's play it full speed. So he's running a comeback, but the DB's outside shade, right? So what does that mean? That means, remember, DB's outside shade. That means he does not have any help outside. All of his help is where? Inside. Wherever his leverage is, that's where he does not have help. So when he's outside leverage and I have to run a route like a comeback route, like an out route, there's a couple mistakes that guys will make. So if he's here, he's outside shade, obviously he's trying to funnel you to the inside, force you to the help. He wants you to run the post, the dig, the deep skinny post. Because if you do that, he could easily maybe get hands on you, squeeze you to the inside and force you to that help. So he's completely content with you taking the inside release. Now, as a DB, when you're in zone coverage, right, eyes to the inside, you have something called the blind spot. And the blind spot is where you cannot see. So if you're a wide receiver running routes against zone coverage, especially on the outside, I'm not talking about the slot where you got like maybe a too high safety zone coverage look. You're on the outside and you got this like press bail, maybe 7 to 8 yards off zone, like cover 3, cover 4. That DB will always have a blind spot. And the blind spot is where you always want to threaten, but not right away. So when you have to run a route, like let's say it's a post route, obviously, what would you want to do? You'd want to attack his leverage, quote unquote, like we were talking about the last example. It's still zone coverage. It's a different type of coverage, but the leverage responsibility still stays the same. So you have to run that post. Maybe I angle my stem and I go right to his blind spot, because guess what he's going to do when you attack his leverage? Keep his leverage, and then bam, we break to the post. That gives us a bigger window between the safety and the corner, and that's an easy ball for the QB. So now if I have to run that outside breaking route, like a comeback, whatever, a lot of guys, the mistake they'll make is they'll just go to the blind spot. They think every time they go up against zone, you should automatically go to the blind spot. But what was he going to do when you attack the blind spot? Keep his leverage. So you would go straight there, he'd keep his leverage, and then you'd break off on the comeback with no space. When you have an outside breaking route, you got to give the quarterback space to throw you open. So what Cooper does is he's attacking the inside shoulder first. He's closing the distance now, because when you go at the inside shoulder, what do you think that DB is going to do? He's still threatened by the fade. It's still zone coverage. He's still guarding you. He doesn't want to get beat fade. On every single route, you're going to come to learn this in the next few clips that we show. No DB wants to get beat deep on a fade. So if we can threaten that shoulder, threaten him with that fade, selling vertical, running hard, good pad level, we're going to talk about that later as well. That can get him to open those hips, and then maybe we get to that blind spot, but now he didn't keep that leverage. Now I have some actual space to run my comeback and for the QB to throw me back downhill away from the DB. That is textbook route running right there, and that is exactly how you would want to beat that zone coverage. If you had to run like maybe an out route, all you would have to do is just break it off right there, and you got plenty of space to the outside. If you had to run maybe a fade route, you could give a hard fake to the inside and then slip behind the blind spot. But we understand that he did not go straight to the blind spot. He attacked that shoulder first and got that DB to flip. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Amari Cooper pushing vertical right here, attacking the inside shoulder and setting up to that blind spot with plenty of space to run out. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about press releases and what you guys can do to get separation against press coverage. So if I got a guy, let's say he's head up, so many wide receivers make this mistake. And where's a DB in press coverage supposed to be looking at? It's supposed to be watching your hips, right? So if I'm a DB and I'm guarding somebody, I'm watching their hips, because I know that a wide receiver he's going to probably try to do this head and shoulder movement, do all these quick movements that operate behind the line of scrimmage. But you got to understand, to get this DB to move, you have to step outside of his frame. You have to threaten him vertically. So let's play this thing full speed. Let's see what Mooney does right here. So with his release, I want you to look at how far he is stepping outside the DB's frame. He's trying to get this DB to move off the platform so he could cut in front of him and run this quick slant. So I have to get him to move. If I go here, and let's say I just take a step like this, and I take my second step about here, and I'm doing all this pointless head and shoulder movement, a disciplined DB who has good eye discipline, who's watching your hips, will not bite. You actually have to step outside of his frame, because when you can step outside that frame, look at what happens. Hips and shoulders automatically go. And what does this look like? That looks like you're just trying to speed release and go to the outside. That's what will get that DB to move, fellas. You don't move a DB by simply just stepping laterally and moving your head and shoulders. Maybe there are releases for it, like a split release, maybe like a quick jab, like a speed release. But that's not going to get you a ton of separation. That's mainly to just get you off the ball. When you guys need to move this DB off the platform, you have to step outside the frame. What I think of it like you're like driving down a road. You got the far lane, you got the middle lane, and then you got the far left lane. If I'm trying to get that DB to move to the left lane, I got to step to the left lane. I actually have to step outside that guy's frame. Now, the critique that everybody will say is, when you step like that, that foot's going to be way outside of your frame. You're going to have no balance. You're going to slip. Not if you bring your body with the cut. You see how he's still got a knee bend? He's still got his good shin angle? That's because it's almost like your hip is attached to your foot. You step there. That's where we want to be. We want to step wide, step outside of this guy's frame to get him to move. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. That's a great press release here from Darnell Mooney. Great job showing how you guys want to operate outside of a DB's frame. All right, so now, next clip we're going to be showing is a corner route, so a deep corner against outside shade press coverage. So big thing about press coverage is like when you had let's think about, so it's very, very similar. Like, and I show those first two clips of zone coverage and off man coverage just to show you guys that when it comes down to leverage, it doesn't really change for the DB. The coverage might change. You know, he might be walked down right up on the line press like this. He might be off 8 yards looking at the quarterback in zone, but it is still the same leverage responsibilities. So he's walked down press outside shade. Usually we will see this as a wide receiver if maybe you're an outside guy and you cut your split down. You cut your split down, you're closer to the lineman, because why would you cut your split down to go run a post? You cut your split down to give yourself more space to the sideline to run an out route. Now, that doesn't guarantee, though, that you're running something outside breaking. That DB probably also has help to the inside when he does this. But that's just when you'll see it. So the main thing I want to cover here is you got to take what the DB gives you when it's press coverage and he's in different leverage looks. So let's play at full speed. So he does a little move to the outside, takes the inside release on a corner route, and then runs this break. Now, it's hard for me to see this too, because you see so many receiver coaches, even nowadays, teaching that, oh, when it's an outside route like a corner, like an out route, you got to take an outside release. They're like, oh, if you go inside, that DB's going to be right on your hip, you're locked up. Not if you do the correct things needed off the line, on your stem, and at the top of the route, you will get separation. You have to take what the DB gives you for timing. Because what was his whole responsibility being outside shade? Or even when he's inside shade, it's the opposite. It's flipped. He's outside shade to prevent the outside route. He is doing whatever possible to not let you get the outside release, especially when it's press, fellas. He's trying to funnel you to the inside because that is where his help is. So he's not going to let you get the outside release. It's not going to be that easy. Everybody's like, oh, you just need to take the outside release. It's not that easy when the DB's not going to freaking budge. You have to take what he gives you. So that's what this receiver does. If you were to go here, and let's say he were to give a hard fake inside, even if we get this DB to hesitate a little bit, and you try to force the outside, DB's going to get hands on you and squeeze you to the sideline. So when you break on your corner or on your out, that sideline acts like a second defender, and you have no space for the quarterback to throw you open. You got to give him space to throw you open on every single route. You cannot force your routes. So he does exactly that, takes what he gives him. He gives a move outside, maybe a little head fake. I'd like a better release here to maybe hold this DB, but when he takes off to the inside, what does he do? He's dipping that shoulder. He's staying low, getting an explosive spot so he can actually restack. Because now I'm in a position where he's trailing my back hip, but I have space for the QB to throw me open. I did my job of restacking. Separation is won and lost at the top of the route, not off the line. Off the line, you keep timing with the quarterback and you keep spacing. That's what the main keys are off the line. Top of the route is where you get open. So now I got him in a position where I'm restacked. I'm getting up to the depth. He throws this like rocker step, which is like a double cut at the top, if you're not familiar with that, to fake the post. That gets the DB to crash on the post. And now look at this. I got a step or two on him, and I got plenty of real estate for that QB to throw me open. And now I could actually go turn up and score. I didn't get the quarterback sacked because I was right on the line, right on the sideline. That is textbook right there. Now, let me ask you this, because this is everybody's next question. Well, coach, what if I take the inside release, but this DB plays it well? And so I'm pushing up vertical, but instead of him trailing me, he's right here. What could I do? Well, you got to have a plan for that. Like I said, separation is won and lost at the top of the route. Now, I know it's a lot of information coming at you, but I'm giving you this information so it's automated. So it's not something that you have to think about during a game. Because when you have to think about it during a game, you're going to play flat out slow. So if he's running with you, you would take your left arm and you would just swat him by. You would slip under him if he overcommits to the vertical portion of the route. If he really is running full speed and he overcommits, okay, fine. I'd put my left hand on his shoulder, on his hip, and I would swat him by and slip back underneath. The main key is you need to give the QB space to throw you open. A good quarterback will adjust. Believe me, if he likes the one-on-one matchup, he will adjust. Let's play this thing full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver taking what the DB gives him and then winning on this corner route with an inside release, fellas. Take what the DB gives you when it is press. All right, so now, next thing to cover is going to be closing the distance with the DB. So if I got a DB, and whether he's inside shade, whether he's outside shade, I have to make sure that I close the space with him when he's giving me some yardage. So he's inside shade, head up, outside shade, whatever. But we got about 2 yards of space and he's impressed. They call this like catch technique. Essentially, he's just trying to catch us. He's trying to get us to just think, oh, he's off. I could just go run around him and then he'll get hands and squeeze us to the sideline. So let's play this full speed. So this wide receiver goes with this like hesitation crossover release. But this is how we get open against this coverage, fellas. If I go here, and let's say we come off the ball, but there's still some yardage between the two of us. And let's say this wide receiver does a hard fake to the inside right now. Like he steps with his left foot and he fakes to the inside. But let's say the DB jumps to the inside. You still have to run a fade route. And there's like 2 yards between the two of you. So when you get him to jump, you still have to get to here. And guess what? He's got a better angle of recovery because there's so much space between the two of you. So anytime that we have that 2 to 3 yard window, or a yard, maybe 2 yards, whatever, that catch technique, we have to make this DB uncomfortable. We have to almost step on his toes. So when I do decide to make this move and he jumps to the inside, I could go hip to hip with him. And when I go hip to hip, guess what? He can't recover. This guy does not have the angle to get to here. We are hip to hip. It is a foot race with him getting, with us pretty much getting a head start. And that is how you get open, and that is how you could set yourself up for a restack maybe, or just to win on the fade. So fellas, main thing, 2 to 3 yards off, you have to close the distance. Think about it like this. Like let's say, for example, you had to run like the same thing, a fade, but he's lined up inside shade. You would stem him to the inside. You would step on his toes, fake to the inside, and then let's take the fade. But we could go hip to hip, and we do not give him the angle of recovery because I close the space. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Great job by this wide receiver hitting that crossover move and forcing that DB to stumble so we could get some separation. All right, so next thing I want to talk about in regards to a press release is pairing your releases together. So anytime that you guys are doing, a press release, anytime that you guys are trying to build, you have to make sure that you are pairing your releases together. So what does pairing releases together mean? That means making your releases look the same so a DB is not predictable. So this route is going to be a slant route versus inside shade. So what you want to do in this case, I'm not going to spend too much time on the specific release, but is a diamond release. That's what you would want to do. So a diamond release is where you would take 3 steps at his outside shoulder on a 45-degree angle to get him to open up his hips so he opens and we could slip underneath on the slant. So you would go right, left, right. So let's watch what this wide receiver does. So he leaves a little hesitation, then he goes into the diamond. Because probably what he's done to set this up is he's done that little hesitation move before, done the hesitation here, and then ran a fade. So now maybe the DB's seen that before. Maybe he's seen it on film. So maybe he's a little bit more over anxious to play the fade route because he's seen it before, like we were saying. So what he does is he makes it look the same. You could do this with a couple different things. You could do like a quick 1-2. So like this DB's here, you could go right, left, you go jab out, jab in, then diamond release. You could do like a split release where you kind of freeze the DB, then go to the diamond, but it builds. Fellas, press releases is not about knowing 20 different press releases. It's about being very damn good at about 5 or 6 things and being able to apply those to the different routes you were given. Because you might be in a system where you don't need to use a specific press release. So why have it in your toolbox? Let's have other things that we can actually build off of. So let's play this full speed. Let's watch what he does. Hesitate, diamond release. That is how you pair releases together, fellas. You got to make it look the same so you are not a predictable route runner, and that is what will get you open. All right, so one of the last things I want to talk about here is how wide receivers can sell a double move. So we're looking at 2 more specific clips here. So when it comes down to a double move, you have to make sure that you're committing your upper half to the double move. So let's play this full speed. This is Amari Cooper running an out and up. So everybody, the common misconception is like, oh, you just have to sell with your eyes, right? Now, that's true, and selling with your eyes certainly helps, but a DB is not supposed to be looking at your eyes, right? So on a double move like an out and up, like a sluggo, I think the eyes are important. Don't get me wrong. Don't go to your practice and say, oh, well, my coach that I listen to says I don't have to sell with my eyes. No, you should sell with your eyes. Like any chance that you could get on a double move to sell with your eyes, sell with your eyes. But I don't think it's the most important thing. Because when a DB is guarding you and he's going to be making a break on something, his eyes are in the backfield right here because it's zone. But also, if he was playing you in man, he's not even looking at your eyes, fellas. He's looking at your body. He's looking at how you sell the route with your upper half and with your speed. So this is solely based on us running with speed and us committing to the out route and the quarterback giving a good pump fake or even just a glance at this out route. That's what gets this DB to bite. But I want you to look at the mechanics of what he's doing because this builds into everything that you do. You got to run this route the same way either way. When he breaks to that out route, look at this. Hips and shoulders are fully committed to the 90. He's running speed, because I guarantee you if he breaks to that out route and he's not running hard and he's not committed with his body language, this DB ain't going to bite on it. But we have to make it look exactly like that out route. And that comes from me having speed, running in full stride, and being fully committed to it. Now, if this DB were in man coverage, I guarantee you he would do the exact same thing because he saw his body commit. I can't tell you how many wide receivers will look back for the ball with their eyes, but they take choppy steps on a double move and their hips and shoulders are already drifting upfield, giving away the route. You have to be fully committed, you have to be running in full stride, and you actually have to be running hard on your double move routes to get a DB to jump. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Obviously, DB's eyes got in the backfield there, but that is the mechanics of the out and up that will get you separation no matter what the coverage specifically is. Okay, so last thing I want to get across to you guys is how you have to use your hips to slow you down. So anytime that you guys are running a route, like this is going to be like a slant out. They call it like a blaze out route. But anytime you guys are running a route like this, you know, maybe a whip route, maybe a comeback route, maybe a curl, where you have to break down, as they say, snap down, as I like to call it. You have to trust your hips. So when it comes down to route running, what do we talk about? It comes down to selling what? Selling fade. So when you guys are selling a route like this, in this case, he's selling a slant route. But being a salesman, everybody talks about, oh, receivers got to be good salesmen. What does that actually mean? When you're running a route like a comeback, a curl, you have to sell the route based on a couple things: body language, speed, and stride, just like the out and up that we were talking about. But it's a lot easier said than done, because like anybody could run hard, anybody could run full speed, but how do you change direction when you're doing that? And that comes from trusting your hips. So let's play this full speed again one more time. He comes out here, full speed, and he's able to get in and out of this break. You see the separation he gets. That's from selling the route. Selling the route, running full stride, running full speed, good committed upper half, will get the DB to react. But DBs, just like how wide receivers work on how quick they can get out of breaks, DBs also work on their recovery speed. How quick can you recover on a route when you get beat? We don't give him that luxury of recovering if I don't waste time at the break. And how I don't waste time at the break is by indicators. A lot of wide receivers aren't comfortable in dropping their hips like this on a dime. And that, you know, it comes a lot from leg strength, ankle stability, knee stability, being flexible at your hips. But that hip drop is how you guys slow down. You dropping to that low position is how you guys put the brakes on when you are running full speed. The old cliche thing was beating the drum. They would tell receivers like, hey, when you get to a break, you want to chop your feet and you want to move your hands as fast as possible because that will help you change direction. It's just flat out slow. Compared to this, that's just flat out slow. If you're violent with your hips and you drop aggressively and put the brakes on, you're eliminating wasted steps because you're already getting to that low position. The whole point of beating the drum, chopping your hands and feet, was to gradually get you to that low position. This just gets you there right now. And it's faster, and that creates explosion. But you have to make sure that we are comfortable with that. So what I would do is, if I'm a receiver, to build on this, I would stretch a lot. I would get my hips flexible. I'd strengthen my legs. I would do a lot of one-legged exercises just to build those aspects physically that can translate to this skill. But fellas, to get you separation on routes like a comeback, a curl, a slant out like this, you have to be able to sell the route. But the only way you change direction while actually selling the route, running hard, running in full stride, is by being violent with those hips. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Amari Cooper showcasing how you can get in and out of that break with violent hips. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this video gave you guys some value. I hope it taught you a few things just about route running releases. I know this was a long video, but I really wanted to dive into the details of route running. And if you stuck through the whole thing, I really, really appreciate the support, fellas. And again, if you guys would like a full wide receiver daily training schedule with specific drills and gym workouts to improve your game, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.